Let's go ahead and call it to order since we have a quorum. And approval of the minutes.
I read them. I moved to approve them.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Go ahead, I'll second.
Okay, who was the second on that?
Jeff.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm the nay on that. I'm gonna be a nay for the approval of the minutes.
Okay.
Okay, do we have to discuss it further, or does that just go for a record of nay?
That just goes on the record, so you're
Okay.
no, that's fine.
Okay,
Can we ask why?
You certainly can. You can talk.
Can I ask why?
in the minutes, it discussed that the crosswalk for the pickleball tournament was not, it's not that it was objected to, it was that we had discussed it earlier, and I brought it up in the September meeting that we did not have St. Louis County's approval to use that crosswalk going across Big Bend Boulevard, and we did not have their approval to do that. And I wanted that annotated in the minutes, and it was not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, next on the list is the visitor comments. Do we have any visitors? I don't see anybody there.
Nope.
Okay. Okay, so we will move on to old business. And the first one is the streetscape design in the public works. Eric?
Yep, thank you very much, Madam Chair. And so for those in the room, you have a little rubric, which doesn't need to be on the paper, on the sheet. I'm not going to send it out to you. We'll send it out after. It's just a note-taking sheet. So we'll walk through all these topics. But let me preface this with the county has selected their design team, as you know, really next month into January and over the spring. That design team, which is it's a CBG Engineering, I believe, is the firm. I'll get the right name, make sure I get it correct for you, Fran. Will start to do their conceptual designs, really of the traffic pattern, which of course is important to Crossroads, and we will certainly be engaging on that. But they've asked us to start really on that conversation about streetscape and the things that happen in the right of way, and what we, as a district, when you think about the things that Old Webster, Old Orchard has, other places, what fits for you, what you are thinking of, things that the city will essentially fund, but we're going to need the county's agreement to and partnership with, since we're going to have the road open per se. Let me give you a sense. If you look right now, the light poles that are the street light poles that are there, which we certainly can keep, and we'll go through all this, but they have power stringing across the top of them. Like, we could bury that power if you wanted to not have lines going through the district on that piece of Big Bend. So that's the kind of things that we need to conceptually talk about. You may have talked to some of this with Mara 2-3 years ago when we did the design and such, but we want to just refresh that and make sure from the city's perspective, we know what your advice is and what your counsel is and what your hopes are for the project. So it's really about beautification, and that infrastructure is where we want to start in the right of way. And there's a lot of things. I know as we've talked about pickleball, as I've talked with Sharon, how can we hang a banner up across the street? And Ameren is not giving us any more poles to use. So the 3 that we have in the city are the 3 that we have. So how do we then allow Crossroads to get a banner if you want to promote something across the street, right? Because we're going to have to put poles in, because Ameren doesn't have any power poles they're going to let us hook to anymore. So that's a sense of what we're talking about, those kinds of things. So I laid out this sheet to talk about beautification improvements, some of those infrastructure things. And then I want to talk just briefly about the scope. Essentially how far through the district we want to take beautification, if we want to just keep it in that one block, I'll call it one block, but the main core of the district. So I also will note, just so you all think about it, there are 3 bus routes that still go through on Big Bend. They are they are suspended service right now, but Metro has not abandoned them, meaning they can come back at any time and reinstate the service. So now they need to work with us and with county, in terms of bus stops, but theoretically, if there's a need and demand, we could see buses return, right? And that's so we need to envision that in some way about infrastructure improvements as well. I do know that on Alma, what the county has already talked to the engineers about taking what is very much a hard left there. The road comes up not perpendicular, but at an angle in there, Big Bend's angle, about taking and putting a bump out on the west edge of Alma, where it connects with Big Bend. So you turn off of Big Bend perpendicular to the road rather than having that hard angle back, going back to the east.
Well, if they bring a bump out on the west side, it's gonna put you more closer to the Lewis building, which is what you'd have trouble looking around.
So I'll pull up a map, but the roadway, we'll pull it up, but the roadway essentially won't be straight. It'll turn a little bit like this. So I don't know exactly how they're gonna do it, but we'll talk with the designers about that.
I just came out of there yesterday with the mailman sitting right there at the corner and you could not see around the building.
Okay, we will
Yep.
look that up, but where I want to start, so Madam Chair, what I was hoping is we could talk about, I just started with beautification. Again, what I'm asking for is, what are your hopes, right? I don't want you to start getting cheap and say, oh, that's too much money. Like, what do you want? Do you want benches? Do you want banners? Do you want pole banners? Do you want across the street banners? Talking about lights, we have, I call them the candlesticks, that you see them on Elm. They're the lights with stand up in the top. Those poles are not tall enough to string a banner across the street. They're also not tall enough if you want to do like Edison bulbs across the street. You see districts like that. We
Right.
can get nice decorative poles that go taller. So that's what I'm talking about, really trying to get a sense of what are your hopes in terms of beautification infrastructure. So I laid out some notes. I'm happy to hear the thoughts, Madam Chair.
I think that I thought that we had put together in the Booker study and studies past that quite a bit of this information when we had asked for basically everything that we could get in that area. Are those still available?
Those are still available. We have them. They're some time ago, and we have some new members and a new feel in the district with different businesses. So I wanted to resurface this because now we're getting to brass tacks, and within the next 6-7 months, this is going to be the final approach. So we wanted to make sure from the city's perspective that we understood that still the same way you want to go and such.
Okay, so how about, can we
Go ahead.
get those together and get them out to all the
Sure.
owners and then kind of get everybody's feedback to see if that's where we still stand?
Do you want out to the owners or the commission members? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, the commission members,
Okay.
and see if that's kind of where we still stand.
We can do that.
Okay.
That'll catch up the new people on what we've
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, because that was pretty expansive on all the stuff that we discussed in those studies.
You have, I'll pull up, some of those things. Certainly we do have. You've made some operational changes since then, trash and recycling.
Right.
But there are no benches in the district that are publicly owned for pedestrians to sit. That's fine. We could ask about moving bus stops or if they return the route in the future. Some of those things I don't think were comprehended in those studies. So there's been some
Okay.
evolution of, so I'm not saying we have to go through all that now. We can certainly get the studies out, but those are fundamental things for us all to think about, is that, post COVID and some of the changes, what do we want to see? And Chris, I know your hand's up, so.
Yeah, I'm interested in reviewing those again, Eric, because when I made my choices were based on limited information, limited availability, limited budgets. So I did not know the option for twinkle lights across the street was an option. I didn't know we could get taller poles where a banner could go through from like the corner of the district. So no matter what we decided previously, I would be very interested in looking at what the options are today, because manufacturers change, products change, options change.
And certainly will do. My point of the conversation today is not even what they look like per se. Do you want taller poles so you can accomplish something like that? That's really where we start to be able to get you a menu so we don't have 25 options.
Eric, really quick, what we don't know is what we don't know. So for instance, when you go into the Central West End, they have two Gothic poles that come up and with a whole bunch of lights, and they're taller than all the rest of the lights. Are there options where all the lights aren't the same and the entryway to the district could be a little bit different so we could have taller poles?
All those options are on the table, yes. So there's nothing that says we have to have a uniform height. Certainly we need to watch for whatever power lines are there and such. And so they're, you know, when you look at the, you know, across from Schnucks, which is not, other than the gas station, not in your district, but that's where a lot of power poles are still hanging. So we may end up with one side of the street and things, but those kinds of entries can be done. I mean, we could, if you think about going into the Grove, right, they have the Grove across the street, you know, that's certainly something that's on the table. I don't think we comprehended that in the last time we looked at it as a budget, but you know, and I'm not saying we have an unlimited budget here, but for the council and really the staff to bring options, you know, I don't want us to be constricted by budget to find out what we really want and try to build a package around that. And then prioritize within what we really, really want. So.
And Eric, there's no rules or anything about running like a banner across a street that's the county, even though we're the city. Like we can, if we get the taller pole, we can still run it across their road.
That's correct. Yes. So the city will end up, we already have a right of way agreement to do things on the sidewalk. We will end up with an agreement because we are helping the county with funding this. If we're going to put lights across and all that, if we're going to put these poles up, we would have that agreement so that we don't need to go back to the county and ask those things.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. So I definitely, I will get those plans, Heidi, and we'll get them out to everyone. I do want to just quickly ask, and I think Fran knows this because we deal with this in Old Webster and Old Orchard. I'm assuming everyone here wants power throughout the district on those poles. So if we're going to light things, Christmas lights, I'm just looking because that's Old Webster and Old Orchard have complained about that since we put poles in long ago. So
Right.
That they didn't have it.
they don't have power. So the new poles, a few poles on each end have power, but the main cores don't have any power on the street lights other than, you know, running the light itself. Julie, I see your hand up.
I kind of have looked back in the past at some of the old plans and I feel like the things I looked at looked great. I'm definitely interested in looking at it again, but I do think the lighting should be a big priority. Even just driving through last night, I drove through Old Webster and it's like, feels like there's all the twinkle lights and then you go down Crossroads and it seems so sad. So just my perspective is, my vote is lighting should be a priority for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It was a limiting factor because until we have this agreement with county that we can do that, it was always limited by county what we could and couldn't do because they basically own Big Bend and they own all the Ameren owns all the lighting in conjunction with county. So it'd be great to have this agreement in place prior to us beginning this, you know, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
The only other question I wanted to ask Heidi, and just so we can give you some options correctly, is the scope of the project. So right now it runs from Elm, the reconstruction really runs the Elm over to the tracks, essentially, right? The intersection to the tracks. The streetscape, the work we're talking about, doesn't have to be limited to that. I think that's the priority area. Certainly for your district, it is the core. But I do want to just point out, you have Baker, that is wholly within the district. You have the rest of Big Bend to Gray, the other side of the depot's in the district. You have Big Bend across to the Schnucks line is in the district. And then you also have Frisco, which is not much of a road, but behind Schnucks and the SSM buildings, that is a public street back there as well. That is in your district. And there's a little chunk of Alma, of course, that goes up to the parking lot that is within the district. So not saying we have to do that. I just want you all to think about there's more than just the piece of Big Bend in the core that is part of the district. Don't have to do it. I just want to make you all aware of that. We'll send the map as well so you can all see the limits and such.
Okay, we're talking about lighting that would go perhaps all the way past the depot.
It certainly could, yep. Or it doesn't have to be lighting, but we've talked about, do you want an entry marker? You know, do you want to say welcome to something? You know what I mean? You know, those kinds of things. That's all in permissible uses of your funds and something we can ask the city to contribute to as well. So again, I know it's a bit of dreaming big, but I want us to think about those things, even if we're not going to do it. Hey, city, don't use this space, you know, because we might want to do something there in the future.
Or something we can put in, I mean, ask about also like for those individual light poles.
Yes.
Like some communities have
So
full poles.
We certainly would, and I would guess the city's sustainability policy, if we're gonna power the poles, we'd probably ask to put in a solar shade up on top to grab power there as well to save the bill for you and us. So, or for the city, I should say, for all one entity. So.
okay, sounds great.
And I'll send out this little sheet of notes so people, as we send out the things, can think about other things if they're interested, so.
Okay. Okay, move on to pickleball tournament feedback.
I'll go to Chris in a second. I'll just say from the city side, we had no major complaints come in. It seems like things went off. I'm looking at Officer Razul because I want to make sure I haven't heard anything from police there, but the courts went well. The car show went well. So Chris, Sharon said she went well until she had a little personal fall, but that's not a part of the district's information, but it seems like overall the event was well received, well attended, and from the city's perspective, we managed flow and such, so, but. Chris?
Yeah, everything went well on our part. We had always a little couple hiccups here or there, but overall great. We're getting ready to announce the check we're donating to the charity, and we'll promote that and talk about it a little bit more, but just wanted to thank everyone who attended and came out. It really meant a lot, and appreciate all your support.
Chris, I apologize for getting sick and not being able to help with the volunteers.
It's A-okay. You help out a lot. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you.
Obviously, Chris, I think next year, if you guys are planning, we'll continue to work with Sharon, but the sooner you have the date and the permit, and then we can get a layout and such. The one thing I think we will do, Chris, is we'll have much like Jazz Fest and others, have a bigger meeting for your team as the organizers, police and fire, to be there, since the footprint grows a little bit, so that we can really get a good sense of where it's going and such.
Yeah, I will definitely be interested in that. And the city did a hell of a job picking everything up, dropping everything off, cleaning everything, organizing. We put it all in piles, but did a really great job. The police were super helpful this year coming out, and it was just a lot of fun. Thank you again for everyone's support on that.
Chris, any idea of how many people you actually had?
We think a little over 2,000 throughout the day. And what was interesting was we heard down from like Paisley and some of the shops down in Lockwood district that there were pickleballers showing up, buying stuff and getting food and doing stuff. So it kind of spilled over and helped all of Webster. So that made me happy to kind of see. So there were a lot of people in and out throughout the day. So it was a little hard to get a full count on it.
Super.
And Jeff, I would love to just shout out to you. Thank you so much for letting us use your parking lot for the car show. I really appreciate it. It made all the difference in the world.
Great. Glad to do it.
Okay, next is the trick or treat update.
I'm expecting delivery of the printed maps sometime on Thursday, and as soon as I get them, I'll deliver them.
Awesome.
I took the picture from the email and blew it up on the printer and have it in the window at the office.
Cool.
Okay.
I suggest that to the other windows.
Heidi, I forgot one quick thing briefly on streetscape. I'm looking at everyone, we know Art of Entertaining. I'm talking about trailer truck size. The engineers did ask this specific question. I know Art of Entertaining gets a shorter semi-trailer that usually does their deliveries, but looking around, do any of you know of the 53-foot long trailers?
I think I've seen some Kuna Meat full trailers at Art of Entertaining.
At Art of Entertaining? Okay. That's one of the things the engineers are looking for, is any info we have on semi-deliveries and such.
Yeah, I'll go down and talk to Anne Marie and see if she can give me some scope of that stuff from her.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sitting right across looking at our parking lot all day long, and usually there's an 18-wheeler that pulls in there and unloads, and bigger truck, not 18-wheeler, but big trucks come in. So she needs space for that. And I guess Heidi will get the exact specs on the type of trucks.
Okay.
I guess if we include Schnooks in the scope of our street.
Yeah. Schnucks, most of their trucks are coming in either on Frisco or making their turn.
Yeah, they have a pretty big turnaround because they have that backside of Frisco to use, so they're pretty okay there.
The engineers are it's more as we look at the safety features of Gore, Big Bend and such, how are we making those turns for any semis, so. Which I don't know what they're planning yet. We'll see their conceptual drawings, but they did ask that question if we knew, so.
Okay, next is on to new business.
No new business, ma'am.
Okay. And BDC update, Julia?
We're already planning our next coffee. You can kind of pencil it into your calendar for February. We are talking about bringing in a marketing company potentially to unify a message amongst all the districts and kind of pump up that Explore Webster page. So if anybody has any ideas, we'd love to hear them for sure.
Okay. All right, next is city update.
Madam Chair, I'm going to share a few things. We'll keep it brief for you all, so you don't have to listen to me talk too much. But first of all, I want to remind everyone that the facade grant program is online now. I think you all got this link from Fran some months ago. So if you are looking for a grant or folks in the district, it's online. We'll send the link out so everyone has it again. Makes it a little easier to use. Also want to highlight the city has started our residential solar rebate. So share to your friends and such if they want to put new panels or solar panels on residential homes. It's $500. It's a very simple thing. You're going to have to apply for permit anyways. We just mark it on the permit you're putting solar in. And then once it's all inspected and done, we send you a check for $500 for doing that project. So that exists on our website as well.
June of 24.
So it's in this fiscal year. I think more than likely, if there is usage, they'll extend the rebate going forward, but we did a pilot program really for this year. So if you know of folks that want to make residential solar happen for them, go ahead. We'll also be polling some of the businesses probably in the early part of the year if there is an interest in a commercial solar program. For commercial properties. So, you know, if you want to put them on your business and such to see if there's any interest going in there. You're going to hear about the Charter Advisory Board. The report has been issued. I think we talked about this. It looks like this. It has 26 recommended changes to the city charter. The council is now working through them. So this will be, some of them will be on the April ballot, I would expect. But there are big changes. They really don't affect the business districts at all, but it's, you know, issues about the council compensation, which hasn't changed since the 65, excuse me. Do we do a hybrid ward system or do we continue to elect council members at large? Questions like that are big. So I would encourage everyone to look at that. We'll have printed copies here at the city hall as well, but it's online and the council will spend some months on that. And then if you haven't heard, we have this little thing called Destination WG, which is our Parks and Recreation bond issue. And so this is online. We want folks to go and take this wonderful, I'm going to move this so everyone can see, to click this link called Balancing Act and dive into our prioritized model here for everyone. We have the bonding debt, the debt capacity we have at the city can support up to $22 million without having to raise taxes. Okay, that doesn't mean we have to do 22 million, but the pool replacement for the outdoor is 12 million. So that leaves us 10 million. Should we, the people of Webster Groves, want to do other projects? So the council's asking about other projects and such. I wanted to highlight, and I'm doing this for you guys, especially the open air theater. This was in the 40-acre plan for Memorial Park some years ago. It was never adopted, but it was part of that conversation about doing an amphitheater style, an open air theater in that as part of that space.
Where?
On Memorial Park. So somewhere with the athletic, the big field behind the rec center there. So the Memorial Park, the fields will have to change in some way. So,
okay.
But it was always part of that plan. There was a plan actually to remove one of the fields in the 40-acre plan and have a pavilion, amphitheater style there. I bring this up because it would, if the council wanted to do this, if the people approved it, that is we don't have a real civic space in any close proximity to much of anything in terms of a business district other than Gazebo Park. So Old Orchard benefits from that. Old Webster, we have to shut down streets and such. Crossroads, you have to do the same. Now this is just outside your district, but it's well within the walking district and you guys may benefit from some of that foot traffic. So I wanted to bring that up and just highlight it. Again, that's very conceptual if we're going to do it. It is not, there's not a plan. That's just a conceptual drawing and such, but the point of this survey is that you can go through and pick out things that you want to see. The skate park, you like that replacement, just click select, and you will see that you've added some money to your bar on the top. If you want to replace the pool, which I think most of us do, boom, we just spent $12 million. So the point is that this has got more projects than 22 million, and you can then pick what you like. We encourage everyone to do this, even if you're not a resident, because we're all users of the system, or the system benefits us all in some way. So this is helpful. When you've picked out what you want, you just simply scroll down and click submit, send it in. And you also can put in your ideas. If you want to say, we want an indoor pool, you can type it in there. So those types of things. Heidi, were you talking to me? Sorry.
No, I was coughing, sorry.
Okay, okay. So I know that's a lot. Those are my updates. Officer Razul, anything?
I don't have anything.
Parking's good, it sounds like. So happy to take any questions.
Only in Crossroads.
That's a nice compliment.
With a good side.
The last thing for our area update, I think everybody has seen that the Sneed rental property, there's people in there getting ready to move in. I think that's a mortgage company, isn't it, Eric? That's going in that property?
Which one's the Sneed rental property? Sorry, you all have
That's
different
right
terms.
that's right next to Kelly and LaRue Studio.
Oh, yes, a mortgage company, yes. Yeah.
And then Vogel has sold all of his properties.
You know why Union Bagel has been surveying around my house?
Around your house?
Well, they were on my property and
I have no idea.
he went over and said, what are you doing? And they were, the stakes are around the yellow house that's right up against the back
Mhm.
parking lot.
Okay.
So there's some stakes. I didn't know. I know that's a rental property. I was wondering if.
Yeah, I don't think that's Union Bagel. I think that's one of Vogel's properties that were recently sold. So of course a survey occurs when that's sold.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so he had 5 properties and that was recently sold, but I don't think it's been determined what all those properties are going to turn into, or at least not
Okay.
being able to publicly
I
discuss.
know the
them.
bagel people are looking for parking, so I didn't know if they were.
I think everybody in Webster is looking for parking, so.
Are some of those spaces vacant that Vogel owned, or?
I don't think they were vacant. Well, his office, I don't believe the house was vacant, but I think his realty office, he wasn't in all of the time.
They wasn't in there.
Right, Julia, but I don't think they're vacant. But most of
Yeah.
them rented except for that one particular space, which I think is going to take on a new meaning. Hopefully in the spring, but that's all I know at this point. And then next to me, Pat Baver's building, she's still trying to sell that, and I believe it's a veterinarian who is looking at that, but that is not finalized either. So
What was the big party that they had at Lark? I didn't see any advertising about it, but they had a booth up and they had lights and.
It was a trunk show for this business called Petite Keeps. It was mostly at the toy store, the little, but
I didn't even know about that one. So
Yeah, I didn't know any advertising or anything about it.
it
So at
was
least-
very, it
I'm
was
sorry, go
very
ahead,
low key, like with the advertising. I didn't understand it at all. I think they sold tickets to the event, so maybe it wasn't totally open, but it was on Monday night.
Yeah.
But at least it looks like a lot of things are going on in our business district, so that's a very good thing for us. That's all I know about what's going on. Anybody else have anything to put with that?
We always get asked about the old Webster coffee shop by the Regions Bank. So 23W is now public. That'll be a coffee shop. And then there's a law office in the back. We've known the use, but now the name is out there. And of course they posted it. So I still don't know when they will open.
They're
But
looking for help. I saw that.
yeah, so, but that's the one that we keep getting questions about. So.
Okay, anybody have anything else?
I know they just tore down the opticians building. Do we know what's going there next to?
Which one's the optician? Right here.
Yeah,
So the Onder Properties owns the 2 small buildings right down here. They did apply for demolition. They both had mold issues, so we do not know what Anders' intent is. There are multiple, that property owner has multiple properties across the city and many demolition requests in to the city at this point. We do not know.
Okay,
All right, anybody have anything else?
Nope.
All right, our next meeting is set for November 15th. Is that good for everybody's calendar? Okay,
And I want to look around. We do not have a December meeting, correct? Because we can't.
Correct.
we take-
Mhm.
Right, okay. So next meeting, we'll also just talk about the 23 schedule. So we'll send out a draft for everyone to look at. So
Okay.
come with any date changes you need for next, or 24 schedule, excuse me, next year. So
all right, could I get a motion to adjourn?
somebody else. said-
I'll motion.
Okay, and a second,
I'll second.
Chris will second. All right, we'll adjourn and we'll see you in November.
Thank you.
Aye.
Yep.
Heidi, can we
Yes.
connect?